Hi, it's Phil Stacy, Executive Sports Editor at the Salem News, alongside Assistant Sports Editor Matt Williams, Gloucester Times Sports Editor Nick Genie. This is Bandied About, our sports podcast, and first one of the winter season, boys, although I don't think winter starts until what, Saturday? So we're 2 days out from that. But happy holidays to you and your families. Let's dive right into it. I mean, do we have any last thoughts at all on the fall, or do you want to just get right into the winter here?
Cool. With moving on, Willie, unless there's any notes.
I think we're all right. I don't know. I hope people enjoyed the All-Stars. We finally got through them all.
Yeah.
Go online, check them out if you missed them, go back in the archives, or get down to your local 7-Eleven and get a copy. Coaches of the year wrapping up, but good, and a lot of our teams have played games, so certainly not a lot of rest, but the page is, I think, officially turned now that the fall All-Stars are done. I know there's still like some All-Americans matriculating out for the college. The AP All-Americans were out today. There was a kid from Endicott got first team, and I haven't seen like the All-State Super 26. It would be interesting to see if we have any locals on that. Maybe not, with the year that we had, but there's still some stuff like that sort of floating out there in the ether. But I think the winter is sort of in full swing now. I mean, I think almost every hockey and basketball team has had a game. There've been some track meets, some swim meets, some wrestling matches. Gymnastics usually gets started, in a couple weeks, right? A little bit later, but I think for the most part, it's pretty wintry out there.
Why don't we start where you mentioned that with the wrestling match you went to, wrestling meet, I should say, you went to last night. This was not a run-of-the-mill midweek match. This match had a deeper purpose, maybe is the best way to put it. But I want let's hear it in your words, Willie.
Oh well, yeah, it was the first home match for Peabody Saugus, the co-op team, and they did it at the gym at Peabody, and they honored Freddie Espinal, who, as we all know, passed away in September, October, at a wrestling practice, doing what he loved. Doesn't get much more tragic or sad than that. And the team, they place the boots at in the circle, as is tradition in the wrestling world, after you wrestle your last match. And certainly never expected that to be his last match, last year. But so it's quite the scene. They turned the lights off, had everybody hold up their phones, and then they wrestled, and he had wrestled at his clubs, with the Lab in Danvers and Red Roots there, and I think it's Wakefield or Reading, somewhere in the Middlesex area, with a number of the Marblehead kids. All the crazy wrestling heads kind of train together and know each other. So just a lot of support, and there was some great matches, very entertaining. Some high level kids that are going to be alive in the States and the sectionals. For Marblehead Swampscott, you got Mason Hinshaw, Liam O'Brien, both 100 match winners, and of course, Max LaRusso for Peabody Saugus is pretty legit guy on the state level, and they have some other guys. And the neat thing was that all 14 weight classes were full, which for two co-op teams, two kind of fledgling teams in the Northeast Conference, even some of
Yeah.
your standalone teams don't always have competitors at every weight class. So it's nice to see the growth of the sport, and it was a fun night. And obviously, I think a little sad, but at the same time, it's great to see the support, and just a great scene. And hopefully every match can be like that. If you can get a good crowd out for some of these rivalry matches, be it Beverly Salem or Beverly Gloucester, might be for the title, or what have you. I mean, when the pace gets moving, some of these matches are very entertaining. They've made some scoring changes this year to match up with the college game a little bit more. So there's a little bit more scoring. You can come back from deficits a little bit easier, and things like that. You get more points for certain near falls, and things like that. So, cool to be a part of. And if people want to search online, you can search Freddie Espinal Scholarship. They're still selling t-shirts, taking donations. He had done some volunteer work at a sheriff's department camp this past summer and decided that he wanted to pursue criminal justice in college. So they'll be awarding a scholarship to a graduating senior that plans to study criminal justice in his name, and that they all have like a sticker, a logo with his name and his weight class, on their singlets and on their warm-up jackets and stuff. So certainly something that will be ever present, not just for PBD Saugus, but in the whole North Shore wrestling, I think community throughout the season. Because, like I says, all these guys know each other. It's a very small world, and in the off season, they all train together and whatnot.
Great stuff, Willie. I appreciate it. Nick, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about boys basketball? Let's move on to the hard court and tell us what you know. We can fill in some of the gaps for you, but while you are now obviously primarily focused in Gloucester, you still have a real good read on the basketball scene on the North Shore. Who do you see as being some of the players that could make some noise this winter?
Well, I know Masco's off to a pretty good start over there. What is it, Jimmy Farrell, and there's another guy that's been playing pretty good hoop. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Again, you guys are
Jameson,
yeah, exactly.
uh,
Jameson, is it
Belly?
Bella?
Vela, yeah, Vela,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bella. So I think Masco is a team that can make some noise, and then you got your Beverleys who are still finding a way to get some wins. They had a crazy back and forth game with Marblehead the other night. It looked like,
Yeah, they were down double digits at halftime, I think, and then came back and won by 10 points or
yeah,
8 points or
exactly.
something.
So it's early, and I think a lot of these games, there's going to be some rust. There's going to be a lot of runs. I was over at the Manchester Essex season opener against Hamilton Wenham, and I thought the two teams were pretty evenly matched, and it was a close game at half. And Hamilton Wenham with some seniors that have experience like A.B. LaBelle and Caden Schrock. They got some good players, and they made a little burst to open the third quarter, got within two, and then Manchester outscored them 30-10 the rest of the way, and ended up getting like a 20-point win. So it's going to take a little bit for these teams to kind of figure things out and get in a groove. I will say, the amount of three-pointers that are being shot it just continues to climb. I don't know if you saw a girls' game, right, Phil? Not a boys' game yet.
I've been to one boys and one girls so far, yeah.
And what did you think? I mean, was the offense looking three-point heavy in the game that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, Marblehead girls didn't take a lot. I think they only took 6 in the game I saw. They
Okay.
hit 3, but they have a lot of post players,
Yeah.
so it makes sense that maybe they wouldn't. Beverly shot a lot. Beverly boys, I want to say, I mean, geez, I'm going to be off on the number here, but I want to say they shot like it was either close to or just over 33 pointers
Wow.
in the opener I saw against Peabody. And I'll be in Salem tomorrow night for Beverly Salem, which I would think will be
That'll be a
another
good
game.
one.
We'll be seeing a lot of international water type attempts
Yep. Yep.
there. But yeah, the preponderance of shooting that three ball is interesting, especially now when you hear, at least, I mean, you guys are more plugged into the pro game than I am, but when you see things on social media that say, maybe the NBA is looking for, I wouldn't say a gimmick, but some kind of way to get more eyeballs on these games and draw people into it. And maybe part of that is you can't shoot three-pointers in the first or third quarters, or you can't shoot them until the last 3 minutes of a quarter or something like that. I mean, that seems drastic to me, but as a purist who hates the 45 three-pointers a game type situation that most teams play into now, or a lot of teams play into now, I would welcome that. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, it's interesting because I never thought that it would get to this point where I would, feel a type of way about that style of offense, but it is. It can be tough to watch at times, and you can't really blame the teams because if they're hitting the shots, the three is worth more than the two. I mean, it's good offense. They're piling up points. The offensive ratings for some of these NBA teams, and this is carrying into the high school game as well, but the offensive ratings are at an all-time high. Teams are scoring a ton of points, and I don't think that's because of a lack of defense. Someone who isn't watching the games might say, "Oh, they're not playing any defense." They're trying to play defense. I think these teams are just finding ways to get threes, and a lot of times they're shooting threes in transition, and
Or
that's
kicking out. That's the thing that I
not
notice
even
the
kicks.
most. Like when the
Yep,
ball's, whether it's in the paint or down on the block or whatever, then you kick it back out intentionally, not just to
right.
reset the offense, but like that's your primary shot method of
I
shooting.
mean, the Celtics are shooting 50 threes a game. You said 45. They're shooting 50 or maybe even 51 threes a game this year, which is just outrageous. I mean, it's a number I never thought they would get to. So, yeah, it's a problem, I think. It's something that they have already looked at, and you mentioned the ratings kind of being down. I don't know if that's playing a huge part in it, but it's one of those things where teams are going to do what they can to win. And right now, shooting threes and having good shooters, there's so many good shooters out there. I mean, you watch the high school game, even the big kids are shooting. I
Right.
watched the Manchester Essex basketball game, like I said, against Hamilton Wenham, and they have a sophomore big man who's probably 6'4", 6'5", and he's got good post game, but he steps out and he shoots the three. He knocked down at least one or two corner threes the other night. You've seen it kind of just progressively get there where everyone shoots. And if you can't shoot, you're probably not going to get a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. It's interesting. I think it's really carried over to other levels of basketball, like high school and college. College, not as much yet. I think the college game is still more a little bit more pure, but in the NBA definitely, and I've noticed it at the high school level. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's different, and some people might not like it.
Willie, in the research that we've done for basketball so far, what are you hearing on the boys scene? Is there a team or maybe a player or two that you think could surprise this year, is ready to bust out, or just maybe laying in the weeds, but by the end of the year they're going to be a team that's on the rise, or a player that we didn't expect? Wow, so and so's averaging 20 points a game or something.
And Willie, I'll let you take over, but I was going to mention Danvers. I thought Danvers is off to a pretty nice start themselves. They got a couple wins. I don't know what you guys have heard from them over there, but
Well, we've heard
that's
nothing, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, that's a team. I mean, so that's you talk about the threes, and I don't think that the NBA's ratings issue has anything to do with the three. I think those are two totally independent situations. But
yeah, I tend to agree. I
it
tend to agree.
the the frustrating thing I think for some boys basketball coaches out there, and I'll say this, is accepting that the game is going in a make or miss direction. And what I mean by that is take a look at Danvers and you watch them against Marblehead and they score 40 something points and they can't buy a bucket. And then they go out against Bishop Fenwick and they score 80 points and they're hitting shots from all over creation. And so as a coach, like they're the same shots, it's the same kids, and so that is sort of that's sort of the Hobson's choice for these coaches. Like, do you just let them go and say, hey, maybe they'll make them tonight, maybe they won't. Like, how do you make it consistent? Because when you're Steph Curry, when you're Jason Tatum, right, it works, it's consistent. The problem is all sports, football, baseball, basketball, right? They're copycat sports. So you see this thing work someplace else, and then you try to do it, but the problem is you don't have Steph Curry, right? It's like trying to, trying to play a bullpen game when you don't have Mariano Rivera. Like it's so that I think is going to be the interesting thing for Danvers is how do they try to create a scenario where they can be consistent offensively? Because when they're hitting those outside shots, they're going to be a very difficult team to beat. But as we saw against Marblehead, when the shots don't fall, what are you sort of going to be able to do? And I think Bishop Fenwick is going through a similar thing where, they have a guard heavy lineup, right? And they want to kind of play a little bit more of an old school style, get the ball inside, get some bunnies, get some layups, get in transition. But they have guys that can shoot the three ball. I mean, they missed some threes in the Markowitz final against Marblehead that some of the parents and some of the assistant coaches were groaning a little bit, didn't like the shots. Now, Nick can attest to this. I am the biggest Joe Mazzulla, Marcus Smart critic that you're ever gonna find. If there's a bad shot, I'm gonna tell you that shot stinks. Don't take that shot. I thought the shots that Fenwick missed were good shots. I thought the ball moved to two or three different guys before they shot it, and they just had some bad luck. So I think when Fenwick
Happens.
gets that luck from distance, they're going to be an interesting team too. But that is, I think, the difficult thing is to know going into a game. Okay, it's almost like a coins in the air. Is it going to come up heads or tails tonight? We don't know. And as a coach, it must be frustrating to try to find consistency in that, to try to replicate that, because a lot of times with these 3-point shots at this level, you're just having you're having guys that are having success in ways that are just difficult to duplicate and difficult to predict.
Yeah, I think it's a great point.
And coaches want to
It's
control everything, right? I mean, that's how it is. You don't want to. You always talk about controlling the controllables, and that distance shooting is sort of impossible to control. So I empathize with a lot of these coaches that are trying to figure out how to navigate these waters and sort of let these kids do. I don't want to say what they want to do, but do what they're comfortable with. Do kind of go as the game's been going. I mean, it sort of reminds me of the late 2000s into the 2010s when teams were kind of trying to figure out the spread offense, trying to figure out, okay, what is too much passing? How much passing is too much? And again, we've all seen these football teams over the years. If you're completing 60% of your passes and you have good receivers, right? Your spread offense looks great. But if you're married to that system and you're trying to do it when you're only completing 30% of your passes, then it gets ugly. And I think that is sort of what is going on with basketball right now, is teams are trying to navigate those waters of finding that balance of sort of going where the game is going, but also kind of tailoring what they want to do to the talent level that maybe they have.
Does that affect the girls' game at all? In the sense that does it make it more of a pure game because we don't see as many three-pointers shot, or is it because coaches have to deal with what they have, and maybe as opposed to 4 or 5 people that can shoot three-pointers and hit them, maybe you have fewer on a girls' team? I don't know. I'm asking maybe how that responds to us here in the North Shore.
I mean, I think the girls' game is definitely different. You mentioned you 6 threes from the Beverly team the other night. I think that's going to be
Marblehead,
more
right? Yeah.
Marblehead. I think that's going to be more the norm. Is less 3-point attempts for the girls' team, and
So in
I
that case, does it make a three-point shooter who can hit them, say, 35% clip or better, that much more valuable to her
absolutely,
team?
yeah. And they're fewer and farther between, right? I think everyone on the boys' game right now can shoot, or at least thinks they can shoot and will shoot. And on the girls' side, it's just that's not the case. You might have a couple girls that are going to be able to knock down threes, and they're shooting them at a lower clip. And obviously, the girls' game is a little slower than the guys' game at the high school level. That's no secret, right? So they're going to get into their offense a little bit more.
But I wonder at the
Obviously,
same time, Nick, if it's becoming more physical because there's more paint play, and then and the boys' game, there's so much around that perimeter. So you're not
yeah,
getting a whole lot of the under, you're not getting 5 or 6 people fighting for rebounds in the boys' games.
yeah.
No,
I don't
it's
know. It's
interesting.
all interesting. I mean, and it's still early, and we're getting into the season just now, but it's just something I've noticed in recent years, and that was so evident in that first game. I think there was 30 missed shots combined between the two teams I covered in the opener in the first quarter.
It's not great basketball. I mean, honestly, across the board, I think the preponderance of players that are leaving that are, borderline college players, there's just so much of a talent drain. It's not to like make up another analogy, but I think basketball is going through what hockey went through 15 years ago, where it's just the level of play is just and part of it, I'm sure, is COVID too, right? These are kids that a lot of them missed their sixth grade season, seventh grade season, right? And that's critical for development, learning skills, learning team ball. So there's probably some carryover from that too.
Well, let's use that as a nice segue here. Um, I would say one of our best players who is a legit talent, who could play anywhere, who's probably going to end up at a Division One school. I know she's already getting looks and at least a couple of offers, is Caitlin Boyle at Bishop Fenwick. Now,
Hmm.
Willie, I know you talked to Adam DeBadgis at Fenwick. You've talked to the PBD and Masco coaches. I would think those would be three of the better teams in our region. Can you give us some insight into those teams?
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody, but I can tell you Fenwick only scored 30 points on opening night, which is not what they want to be doing.
37, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
37,
I mean that
32,
that's
something.
not, and even coach was joking about it a little bit. It was I think he said what did he say? It wasn't aesthetically pleasing or he called it a defensive struggle sort of in air quotes. But Boyle's a good player and that's she's a good example of a kid that again, like I think the good players can shoot, right? I mean, she can shoot. Cecilia Nielsen can shoot. It's the kids that sort of are maybe not playing basketball year round that are still sort of playing that old school style maybe a little bit. I think Masco, you look at the Lalaco sisters, very good players, have some size, some defensive ability. Riley Bavardi's a kid that is always a great on-ball defender. Masco is always going to be dogged defensively. I was a little bit surprised at the ease with which Peabody took down Beverly on opening night. I kind of thought Peabody might take a baby step or two back this year, and they sort of announced like, "Hey, no, we're right here. We're going to challenge Masco." Fell behind by 20 in the first half, got within five in the second half, and sort of that was similar to the Peabody Masco game a year ago, the first game, but with the roles reversed where Masco made a big comeback, still lost, and then won the second game. So I think that's what Peabody's going to want to hang their hats on this time. They've gotten some really strong play. We all know Allie Betancourt can do it all. Lacrosse, soccer. One time I think basketball was her number one sport. She's going to play lacrosse in college instead, but she's a big time scorer. She can score 20 points, any given night and get to the hoop for layups in a good way. Her younger sister Avery has had a great start to the season. The Ryans have had a great start to the season, so that's going to be very interesting. I have not heard much on the Maya Davis front for Peabody. If they can get her healthy, that's something to watch because she's a force inside and adds some size there. So I think the NEC title chase is going to come down to Masco and Peabody, and we'll see who kind of is there at the end. I do think in our area, Fenwick remains in a class by itself. I mean, yeah, they don't have Cecilia K anymore, but like you said, Boyle is probably the only pure Division One player in the region, and Nielsen might be
Although
honestly
we
number
should
two.
say, in fairness, that what's her name, Bella Awuma from St. Mary's is an outstanding player in her own right. She'll be a Division One player.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not
so,
counting them. I mean, as part of our region, but yeah.
right.
I mean, the CCL certainly, and yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't, you know, have their druthers in that league this year as they always do. But yeah. I mean, I don't see any players of that caliber in the NEC. Unfortunately, those days. Unfortunately, those days are kind of over. And that's how the cookie crumbles.
Nick, just quickly, your area. I know Manchester split their first two games. They're girls. I saw Rockport had a big win on the road last night.
They
Uh,
did, yeah, yeah, on
yeah,
the board.
yeah,
Saw the
like a
score for that.
30-point win, I want to say, right?
Yep, yep.
Just a real quick insight into the teams down at Cape Ann.
Well, Rockport, I think they're going to be right in the playoff mix again. I just heard from their coach this morning on last night's game. They won, yeah, 59-27, and Allie George is still one of the
Captain.
better players in the area. Yeah, she's a senior captain now. She's been a star for them for 3 years. She had 24 points in that one, and then Sonny Gallagher is quite the athlete. I believe she's only a freshman,
She
and
is, yeah, she's a freshman. Yep.
yeah, and she was on the soccer team in the fall, was one of their better players on the varsity soccer team at Rockport, and now she's playing hoop again. I believe she
He was
just
a varsity player as an eighth grader last
eighth
winter.
grader. Yep.
Yeah.
So she had 16 points. I mean, that's good stuff for a freshman. So Rockport, they play the right teams in that schedule, and I think they're going to be competitive once again. They did qualify for the Division Five playoffs last year, I believe, and I think they're going to be right back in the mix again. Manchester Essex, like you mentioned, they split their first two games. They had a tough loss the other night, but it was competitive, and I think they're going to be right in the mix in the Cape Ann League as well. Gloucester's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start in the NEC, but speaking with Tommy McDonald, they have some talent. Ty Amano, who was, their leading scorer on the soccer team in the fall, she's a terrific leader, senior captain for them. She's a good player. She gets after it defensively, can do a little bit of everything on offense. They got Jordan Del Torchio, who's a junior now, was a big player for them as a sophomore last season. She can really get to the rim. She plays good defense. She's got some length, athleticism. So Gloucester could be in the mix as well. I think their goal is to get into the state tournament. It's been a few years for them. So they're going to be battling all season to reach that goal. But yeah, no real powerhouse on the Cape Ann, but I think all of them are going to be in the conversation to get into the playoffs for sure.
I want to get your thoughts, guys, on girls hockey locally. And Nick, where you just have the one team, give me a minute here on Gloucester, and then we'll go to Willie for
Yeah.
the rest of the North Shore.
Well, obviously we know Gloucester had their best season ever last year,
Right.
making the playoffs for the first time. I believe they won a playoff game right before they lost, or they gave a really good team a good match. Um, Regardless, no, they did win. They did win their first playoff game. That's right. Um, Graduated 10, 11, 12 seniors, I think. So they're really reloaded. But encouraging win for them last night. I wrote a story on it. They played Masco and they were down 2-0, to Masconomet first period and ended up tying it up at the end of the first, scored again in the second, and scored two, including an empty netter in the third. So they're a young team, but they have a lot of talent in the underclassmen. You start with Keegan Jewell at the top. She's going to be their go-to player. She had a fantastic season last year, and now she's a captain for them, and she scored two goals in that game. Still only a junior, Keegan. So she scored two, and then you got, middle schoolers chipping in like crazy. They had a Lexi Francis, an eighth grader. She was starting for them at left wing, and she had a goal. Then you got another eighth grader, Claire Ward, got a goal in the second. You had Kayla Collins, who's a freshman, got a goal. They have a defenseman, Ella Laurie, a seventh grader, who, we had a photographer at the game and he was texting me just saying, wow, I can't believe how good this girl is for a seventh grader. And speaking with the head coach, Rob Parsons, he said the same thing. She's just, really poised for a player her age and knows what she wants to do back there, is just does all the little things defensively for the team. So as a seventh grader, she's going to see a lot of time too. So it's a young team. They're not going to be quite as experienced as they were last year when they had that incredible run, but I think they're definitely going to surprise some people, and they got good depth with a lot of those young kids.
Willie, you want to take us through our Salem news area? A big game this Saturday, I know, with Peabody and St. Mary's renewing acquaintances, not only from their past regular season matchups, but that great game they had in the state playoffs last year.
Nope. No, that was like 2, 3 years ago.
Oh,
But
2 years ago. I'm sorry.
yeah, always a good take. I mean, St. Mary's with a loss already on its ledger, bounced back with a win last night. So you never know what you're going to get with the Spartans, young team as always. But I think you always know you're going to get a good defensive team. Goals are going to be hard to come by, and that's certainly the case for Peabody as well. So it should be a good early season test. I mean, the thing is that they have been able to change their schedule considerably with this new Northeastern Conference alignment, Northeastern Hockey League, whatever you want to call it. They have sort of shoehorned in the Dunn and the Lynch names, which I question highly because it's not the Northeastern Conference. Maybe we should come up with our own things. I don't know, the Duggan and the Smith, say, or after Megan and Ben, the girls hockey luminaries, maybe would be my
That's good. I
suggestion.
like that.
But they
Yeah.
didn't ask me what I thought, even though I kind of invented this thing when I suggested it in my column last year. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, Peabody has got, I think, what did I put? I think it was 7 games against teams that finished in the top 10 of either the Division One or two power rankings last year. So, their record may not be as good as it was, but they're certainly going to be battle tested and ready come tournament time. And I think that that sort of Lynch division is wide open. Masco, Gloucester, Marblehead, Newburyport, all pretty similar teams, all kind of looking to crack that state tournament threshold. All should be very competitive games. As Nick mentioned, the Masco Gloucester game last night was very competitive. I imagine anytime those teams play each other, Marblehead and Newburyport had a very similar game to the Gloucester Masco game. It was 5-3 for Newburyport with an empty netter. So 1 goal game at the end, and the Clippers got the empty netter. So I think the standings on that side of the ledger are going to be very, very interesting to watch. Very, very tight. In the Dun, I would expect Peabody and Winthrop to be there at the top. Beverly very capable of knocking off somebody and kind of trying to make that a race. I mean, but they're a team that sort of is in prove it mode a little bit. Haven't been at the level of Peabody and Winthrop, but certainly are more than capable of stealing points, and I would think would get points in most of their crossover games. And then you got Medford. I don't know how Medford got stuck in the large. That seems a little bit unbalanced, but you can't be perfect. I mean, somebody was going to have to be up there at some point. So I think it shakes out pretty well, pretty interestingly, and it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple few months.
Nick, you want to switch to the boys and tell me what's happening both in Gloucester and Rockport on the ice?
Sure, yeah, we can start with Gloucester. They're off to a 2-0 start with a pair of overtime wins. You saw them against Danvers have a
Yep.
nice comeback overtime win in that one to open things up. And then they headed over to Newburyport last night for a rematch of Division Two, I believe it was Sweet 16 matchup last season that Gloucester had lost. Gloucester had beaten them. I think they split in the regular season, and then they, of course, played each other in the playoffs and lost. But Gloucester came out on top in that one too in overtime. They got a game winner from Chris Daly, a senior defender, off a feed from Colby Warren, who had scored the first goal for Gloucester on the day, and then you had Cade Cooper, a senior for them, who I was really impressed with last season. He kind of took a back seat to, their top two guys, Jewel and Brett Cunningham, but he was a guy that could mix it up, around the net, and he scored some goals that way this year. I think he's gonna do a little bit more by himself, with the puck on his stick, and he had two unassisted goals yesterday, back to back to keep Gloucester in the game, and so he's a player to watch. And they obviously have a new goalie in net too. Just one goalie on the roster this year, Trey Marone or Maroney, sophomore, junior. I think he might be a sophomore
Sophomore
this year.
this year, yeah.
Sophomore. So he was playing a lot of JV last year, practicing up with the varsity team. They had two goalies. Gloucester would split between Tarantino and Riley DeHaan last year, both really good goalies. I'm sure he learned a lot from them. And Trey Maroney takes over this year, and he's done a pretty good job so far to open up the season. So two nice wins for Gloucester. I think they're going to be pretty solid team. They don't have the standout superstar goal scorers like Jewel or Cunningham this year, but like I said, I think a guy like Cooper can make a leap. I think Colby Warren's been pretty good. Giacomo Martel is another athletic kid that's gotten off to a pretty good start. So they got to be pretty happy with where they're at early on in the season. And then Rockport, they are 1-2,
One
I
and two,
believe,
yeah.
to start the season. That's a team that was in the mix last year. They play a tough schedule. Give them credit. For one of the smaller programs, they play a challenging schedule, and I think they're going to get after it this year. I haven't been able to catch any of their games yet. Let me see if I can mention some of the players.
I mean, I could help you out there if you're
Sure.
looking for guys in the team. I know they play Beverly coming up this week. I think so far, the captain, Nick Ryan Meany's,
Ryan Meany, he's been kind of
yeah, he's got a couple goals, maybe 3 assists as well. He's been playing pretty well for them. Ryan Fazio, I want to say he's another
yep,
junior
junior right
center
wing.
that's played well. And Hayden Wood has, I want to say, 2 goals and 2 points. They also have, you mentioned the two seniors that Gloucester had last year. Rockport has two senior captains in goal, and Luke Holmes and Cooper Miller, and
Yeah.
they split the first 2 games, and then Holmes played again the third game. So I don't know if it's going to be a strict split every other game, in which case Miller would get the call Saturday against Beverly, or if they go back to Holmes or not. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but yeah, they have some talent on that team, Nick. Jack Lawler, Matt Diorio. I mentioned Fazio has played well. Matt Coughlin, I think, has 3 goals already. So, they're a team that can put the puck in the net. It's just a matter of can they put it together for a full game? They did that in their opener against Northeast, but then they've stumbled the last two. So, hoping to get back on the right track against Beverly on Saturday.
Yeah, and they're benefiting obviously from pulling from a couple different schools, Manchester, Essex, Ipswich. So I think it's a group that is eager to play with each other,
Hamilton
and
Wenham.
Hamilton Wenham as well. Yeah, Cooper Miller, right, their goalie there. He's a Hamilton Wenham kid. So
Yeah,
I think
Grayson
it's a
Minich
good
is
balance.
another Hamilton Wenham kid.
Yeah, Jack Lauer is obviously Manchester, Essex. I think they got a good balance between each town too. Guys contributing from Rockport, guys contributing from Manchester, Hamilton, and so on. So they were 7-14 last year. I'd like to think that they can get closer to 500 this year.
Willie, anything jumping out to you about the boys in our area thus far?
Very surprised to see Peabody take down Masco. I mean, I know they got this kid Muse, had what, 4 goals, back from AAA juniors to sort of join the team. And
Yep.
when you can add that kind of sniper, I mean, because I don't think they were a bad team last year. They had some nice defensemen. They were still growing, obviously, only a couple years removed from being JV only. You add a few Saugus kids, you add a few Swampscott kids, and then you add a bona fide sniper to the mix. I mean, maybe they caught Masco like napping like a little bit. I know Masco made a little bit of a rally there in the third period to get it to 6-4, which is sort of the score that I expected, but in the reverse direction. So that's going to be very interesting to watch to sort of see if that team now. I mean, they certainly don't have any aspirations of a state title or anything, but if they can chase the NEC Lynch and make the tournament, I mean, for a team that was a JV team just a couple of years ago, I think that would be a remarkable accomplishment.
And you mentioned the Swampscott kids they're bringing in. They're only going to help. I mean, Don Papalato had a great sophomore season in goal for Swampscott a year ago. Of course, they didn't have enough players for their own program this year, so they merged with Peabody and Saugus. He had 41 saves in that win against Masco the other day, so he played really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Like, because no aspersions on the goalies of the past couple of years, but I mean, it's been a little while since they've had a bona fide, number one guy in net, and so that sort of changes everything. It gives you so much confidence when you're skating with the puck to know that it's not going to end up in the net and stuff. I mean, that's enormous. And we saw it with Swampscott last year, like you mentioned. They were in a lot of games because they had that goaltending.
Yeah, and it does. It makes a big difference, I would say. Ryan Frary's another guy. He's a junior forward that is only going to help them out. I think he had 20 points career-wise coming into this season, so he's certainly going to give them a boost. Jason Rothwell's another guy. He's a junior on defense from Swampscott. Cam Gold, the freshman defenseman. And then you add it to the kids, the PVD kids they already have. Brandon Barone had a real nice season for PVD last year as a sophomore, had 20 something points for them. Tyson Higgins, one of the captains, a good scorer. Zach Hartnett on defense, Andrew Pinto on defense. Adi O'Leary had 13 points as a freshman last year. So, I mean, this has the possibility of turning things around for them. If they can pull it all together, I mean, that's a great opening day win for them. Unfortunate for Masco that has an entirely new defense. Lost what was going to be their starting goalie, Dylan Brothers, a few days before the season to a season-ending injury. Some new forwards as well. So maybe for them, you think, oh, this PVD team has been, easy fodder for us the last few years. Like not this year. And maybe that's a wake-up call Masco needs early on to try to shape things up. I'm not sure. All right, let's go to our blind rankings here. Whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Festivus, it is the holiday time. It's holiday spirit. We tend to think of things in terms of merriment and joy and whatnot. We all celebrate Christmas, the three of us. But so I got two ideas here, guys, for um, blind rankings, and you can tell me which one you like. I kind of like them both, to be honest. So we could do gifts you would get, ranking gifts that someone would give you, or Christmas movies.
Two movies.
I don't care. Whatever, Nick. That's
We
fine.
could do them both if you want. I don't care.
It
Sure.
doesn't matter.
All right, let's do the gifts first. We'll do these
All
quick.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
okay.
go.
So holiday gifts you may receive. Okay, so what we're doing is we're blindly ranking these 1 to 5, one being the best, five being the worst, or your least desirable one. So we'll go through these quickly since we're doing two. A bonus holiday two blind rankings. Okay. All right. So socks.
I feel like this could be a worse one. It could be ah, but I'm gonna put that at 5.
5. Okay. Willie.
Um, I'll go three. I like a good. You need good socks, and you don't want to spend
Yeah.
money on it on your own. So it's a staple. I'm good with socks.
All
I
right.
tend to agree with you. Yeah. Okay. A restaurant gift certificate.
I enjoy that. I go 2.
2. Okay. Willie.
Um, yeah, I'll put it at two. I mean, yeah, it's always good. It's always good to get something good to eat and not have to pay for it. So
Yeah.
you can't really go wrong there.
Okay. How about a throwback jersey of your choosing?
Oh, that's got to be number one. I mean, that's easy. That's great.
Okay. Nick.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go 3. I think that's a great gift, but you really only wear it on so many occasions, right? I'd probably be sitting in my closet for a while. I think the idea of it's awesome, and I could think of some great players that I'd love to have a throwback jersey, but just wouldn't get much play, to be honest.
All right. How about a new electronic device, whether it's a phone, laptop, iPad, that type of thing?
I'll put it four. I'll put it four. I mean, I like to pick that stuff out myself. It's sometimes it's kind of difficult, so I'll go four.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 4 as well. I'm hoping this last one's something decent.
Okay. And the last one is an ugly sweater.
I blew this one, huh?
You did.
All right, well,
Willie had just
number
about a
one.
perfect list, though, I would say.
Yeah, Willie did well. I kind of
Throwback at 1, gift card at 2, socks at 3, new device at 4, ugly sweater at 5. That's pretty good.
I should have moved the socks up. I didn't give him enough credit.
No. All right, but you have a chance to redeem yourself, Nick, with the
Nah,
movies. Let's go to the movies. Okay, so these are all Christmas themed movies. Okay, that have a Christmas vibe to them. Okay, so let's start with Home Alone.
I'm gonna put that at number 2. One of my favorites, but I have another one in mind.
Okay, Willie.
Number 2 is just as good as the first one.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, no, two's a good spot. I mean, not perfect, but never can't go wrong. I think two's a good spot for that.
2 is very good, the second movie, but a notch below the first. But when
I'll
he
agree.
throws the
I'll
bricks
agree with
off the
that.
roof, that's pretty clutch.
pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I mean, Marv would be dead, but well, that's
Yeah.
beside the point.
Mike, I can't tell you how many times my kids have asked that. Wouldn't Mom be dead? I'm like, yeah, it's a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a Wonderful Life.
Never seen it.
Huh. What is wrong with you, honestly? Like,
Putting
come on.
it, putting it at five.
Oh, Willie.
It's got to be number one. I mean, it's just a certain age, and I really identify with the bartender who says that we're here to get drunk and get drunk fast, and we don't need any atmosphere. That speaks to me in my middle age here.
Now, you know someone's a good person, and I can tell you this off the air, but a friend of ours in the business has a Knicks t-shirt that
That's
he
pretty
wears
good.
around the holidays.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, you want to talk about obscure but clever. That's a good one.
I should
That's
probably
pretty
watch
good.
that one, huh?
You should. Yeah, it's kind of like required by a human being to watch. Yeah.
Well, it's going in my five slot until I get
All right.
around to that.
The Year Without a Santa Claus.
I always like that one.
Yeah.
Hmm. I like the old animated ones. I'm gonna go three on that one.
Okay. Willie?
I'm gonna put it five. That is my least favorite of the sort of that style of animation. I don't know what you call it, stop motion or stop go, whatever. That's sort of bottom of the barrel for me
Okay.
among that crew. So
Fair enough. A Christmas Story.
I
Oh,
put it four. Never liked it that much.
same.
Was never into the whole Ralphie thing, the stupid lamp, the TBS, the 24-hour marathon was not like exciting to me. It was never really my favorite thing. I'm gonna put it four.
Yeah, I think it's a little overrated as well. If it's on, maybe I'll watch it for a little bit, but not one of my favorites either. Putting it at four.
It is a sports crossover. Did you know that the mom in Christmas Story is also in the movie Slapshot,
Hmm.
who she and Mr. Reg Dunlop have a connection in that movie. So I didn't know if you knew that or not. Anyway,
I did not, but interesting.
all right. So coming down to our last movie here, Nick, you have the one slot. Will, you have the three slot. Nick, I don't think you're going to be happy. I could be wrong, but Love Actually.
No, it's a good movie, but I wouldn't put it at my number one.
No, it is a good movie. It is a good movie, but on this list, no. On this list,
Yeah,
it's probably
I
four.
made the mistake of leaving my one slot twice and banking on you coming up with a good one to end it, and it just didn't happen. So
Well,
I
that's
probably would have
where,
put,
that's where this just comes up as a random draw. You pick. And
yeah,
again, I'd say Willie has a pretty good list. I mean, Wonderful Life, number one, is a no-brainer. Home Alone, the modern classic, if modern can be 35 years old or whatever. Love Actually, not bad. I thought about throwing the Santa Claus in there.
that would have been my number one.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a film. That is a film.
I
That
had
would have been
that
my number one.
on. I was wrapping some gifts the other night, just kind of absentmindedly. Everybody else in the house is in bed, and I just flipping around. I come on that, and I like when I turned it on when he's at the scene where he's being interrogated by the police, and they're like, "I know you're Scott Calvin. You know you're Scott Calvin. So when I ask you your name, you say Scott Calvin." And then he goes through all the various incarnations of what Santa is known around the world, like Pierre Noel, Père Noel, and Topo Gigio. I'm like, oh man, I'm
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
this. Like, I'm totally watching this. This is good
Oh,
stuff.
it's great. Tim Allen's just perfect in that movie, and
Yeah.
that would have
Yeah.
been my number one. Um, uh, you know, I gotta watch It's a Wonderful Life, I guess. Home Alone would have been number one on this list if I did it correctly, but
You're going to be disappointed in Home Alone, though. I'll tell you that because we're building it up. And I'm not sure
Home
you have,
Alone or It's a
no,
Wonderful
no,
Life?
it's a Wonderful Life.
Okay,
I'm not sure you have the same, um, how can I say this? I'm not sure you have the same sense of the past
okay.
and can appreciate things from another time.
You
You
think I
have to
should have watched
consider
it
it
when I
in the
was
time
younger?
it was made.
Maybe I should have watched it when I was younger.
No, because you'll understand it more as an adult, but
Hmm.
you know, it's just you have to open your mind.
I thought you were going to throw Die Hard on the list. What do we think about that being a Christmas movie?
Die Hard's a good movie. I mean, I don't consider it a Christmas movie. I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But it does happen on the 24th, you know.
Yeah, middle of the pack. Middle of the pack. That's a good spot for that. Middle of the
What was
pack.
the name of the place? Nagasaki Tower, was it?
That sounds right.
I think that's right, yeah.
I did like the guy who was the limo driver, and he's just like kind of blissed out, listening to his music while the place is going up in flames.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
No,
that's
I
there's
would
definitely some
say,
good
yeah, I mean,
scenes in it.
this is not a bad list. Not a bad, I would
no, you
say
did it right. Willie,
they're,
you get a full stock, and Nick, sorry, you get two calls.
I'm getting the ugly sweater,
Yeah,
apparently.
you're getting the ugly sweater.
Burgermeister over Heatmeister. That's what I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I should have done the Rudolph movie too, when they put the coal on his nose.
Yeah.
His father would go down as the worst parent in any Christmas movie, worse than the mother in Home Alone.
Ooh,
Yeah. Hey, anyway. Oh, I could have done Christmas Vacation too. Forgot about that one.
classic.
A lot of choices. A lot of choices.
Yeah. All right. So we will get to another podcast before the year is out, but for this one, we want to wish you and your families happy holidays. We hope to see you out at the courts or the rinks or whatnot. Enjoy your holidays with your family, and we will see you around. For Nick Giannino, Matt Williams, I am Phil Stacy. Happy holidays, everyone.